It's Canada Day, and we will discuss the continued fallout of the Dolphins trading Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 7th-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 5th-round pick. Plus, a name we talked about during the breaking news episode, Michael Mayer. The Miami Dolphins are reportedly interested in acquiring him, but will the Raiders be willing to play ball? We will discuss it all. Do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's going over the touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. Appreciate all of you coming through for this episode. As you do, please do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and to my fellow Canadians, happy Canada Day. This day actually has significance for me, not just because of it being Canada Day, but 28 years ago today, I lost the biggest male figure in my life, my grandfather, Canada Day 1997. So RIP to him, amazing human being. And I still remember so much about how great he was to me and our relationship. Honestly, one of the greatest men I've ever known. So when I am watching fireworks tonight, I will definitely be thinking of him. All right, now, as you guys are well aware of, the Miami Dolphins have reacquired Minkah Fitzpatrick as well as a 5th-round pick, and in return, the Pittsburgh Steelers were given Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, as well as a 7th-round pick from the Miami Dolphins. Now, this whole situation and the continued fallout is very interesting because we are starting to see, reports come out. You've got a lot of bitterness over there on the Pittsburgh Steelers side in terms of their fans. And guess what? The fact of the matter is this, all right? All these bitter fans just tells you how the Miami Dolphins have absolutely won this trade. I don't care what anyone tries to say to me. They won this trade. They got rid of Jonnu Smith, who got a 200% raise the Miami Dolphins were just not going to hand out. And they got rid of Jalen Ramsey, who even Teron Armstead, who was co-hosting Nightcap, said would never have suited up. All right? Would never have suited up for the Dolphins again. Obviously, the Dolphins sent out about $25.2 million of salary, and they brought back about $15.5 million on Fitzpatrick's deal. So they freed up some cash and some cap, and that whole messy situation is no longer an issue. It's also been reported that the Miami Dolphins, they paid an additional $3 million of Ramsey's salary to facilitate the trade. So that nets an additional $7 million in cash savings by moving on from Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, right? Now, and remember, Jonnu got an $8 million pay raise. So he's going to play in 2025 on a 1-year, $12 million contract, right? Like, woof, 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 woof. And the Miami Dolphins, they cleared some space. they and hey, you know what? Again, got rid of a disgruntled player and a player that wanted to get paid money. You just weren't going to give him. Now, in terms of Minkah and his fit here, I've talked about this. All right. I think you could see him up on the perch, right? In a single. I think you could see him up on that perch with a split. Weaver loves using those three safeties. So I think there's a world where you are going to see, obviously Melifonwu as well as Ashton Davis even out there paired with Minkah, and I think you're going to see Melifonwu playing more of that Kyle Hamilton type of role, right? And I've said this all off season. I think Kader Kohu is going to be on the boundary a little bit more than people think. I've been saying that all off season. And I think you've got a guy in Minkah who can come down and run support and as a tackler offer you something we didn't have from a guy like Jordan Poyer last year. And I think Dante Trader, perfect fit under a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick to learn and grow under. And you look at this contract and the way it's all structured, Minkah, why give him an extension right now? If he doesn't have a good year, you can move off of this. So I just think you are going to see a lot of, I think you're going to see an increase in probably, press for sure. Right. And I think Minkah just opens it up for how you want to use Melifonwu, how you want to use Ashton Davis, and how you want to use a lot of people in that secondary. I think it's just a very great addition. I just think Minkah Fitzpatrick coming back at this stage of his career, 3-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. You got a 3-time All-Pro and a 5th-round pick for a player that didn't want to be here, a player that wanted a 200% raise and got it, and a 7th. That's a win in my book. I don't know what else to say and how else to spin it. It's just, it comes off as a win. And, I'm even seeing reports about, Minkah communication issues and all this jazz, and he was a reason why the defense. No, man, don't believe any of that, all right? They said the same thing about Butch Barry when we got him for Denver about how bad he was and all the terrible stuff he does. And look at what he has gotten out of the offensive line when we've had capable people. I don't mean Robert Jones and I don't mean Liam Eichenberg. I mean the 70-point win against Denver where we had all 5 of our starters. And Connor Williams and Isaiah Wynn and Robert Hunt and Teron Armstead and Austin Jackson. So let's see how it plays out before people start jumping to conclusions, because I'm going to tell you that he's coming back to that warm weather. George Pickens showed mad love to Minkah coming back. So I know everyone's talking about Raheem Mostert, the guy that we gave all these opportunities to, and really McDaniel gave him more opportunities than any other coach would have. You think this guy would have had a chance to score 20 touchdowns anywhere else? I don't think so. Let alone get paid the way we paid him. I don't think so. So, let's just let this play out. And I'm excited because that safety room all of a sudden, to me, overnight has become a damn. If Melifonwu stays healthy, this could be a damn good safety room with Minkah leading the way and Dante Trader coming up and Patrick McMorris coming up. If Ashton Davis stays healthy, let's just figure out this cornerback room. Let's figure it out, because the way it's looking, like I've been saying all offseason, Cater's going to be playing on that boundary a lot more. All right, now speaking of this trade and how everything went down, ESPN went ahead and Seth Walder, he went ahead and dropped grades on this. All right, so this is how he sees the whole thing going down. All right. So he gave the Steelers a C. He gave the Dolphins an A. And he said this was truly a stunner. Well, it had been made abundantly clear that Ramsey was not going to be on the Dolphins in 2025. The fact that it was the Steelers trading for him was a surprise. It was a complete shock that Fitzpatrick was the compensation in return, and Smith lumped in too. Folks, this was a June blockbuster. Let's break down from the more complex Steelers side first. By signing quarterback Aaron Rodgers, the team signaled it was taking a long shot swing, another run while in the tail end of the TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward era. It had money to spend. Pittsburgh has the third most cap space in 2026, but adding Ramsey and Smith in exchange for Fitzpatrick is still jarring. Ramsey 30 is generally considered to be on the decline, though nearest defender numbers would somewhat dispute that. Last season, Ramsey allowed 0.9 yards per coverage snap per next-gen stats, better than the outside cornerback average of 1.1. He did that while mostly playing an outside corner role. He aligned as a wide corner 78% of the time. He also rushed the passer 36 times with Miami last year, the most of any season in his career. It'll be interesting to see what Ramsey's role in Pittsburgh is. With Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay installed as the outside corners, the team can employ Ramsey as a nickel and or safety, the latter part seemingly being particularly feasible given Fitzpatrick's inclusion in the trade. Ramsey played significant snaps as a slot corner when he was with the Rams and very occasionally aligned as a safety with the Jaguars early in his career. If Ramsey played some sort of hybrid nickel safety role, that would not be a like-for-like replacement of what the Steelers had Fitzpatrick do last season. Fitzpatrick played deep safety 80% of the time, and a lot of that was in center field since the Steelers played too high at the fourth lowest rate in the league. At safety, the Steelers now have Deshaun Elliott and Juwan Thornhill. Elliott played more of a box safety slot role last season, but has played more deep safety, coincidentally enough, with Miami in the past. And Thornhill played a deep safety role in 11 starts with Cleveland last season. The financial compensation matters here. The Steelers are picking up nearly the entirety of Ramsey's tab, the bulk of his $26.6 million in 2025 after giving him a slight raise. That's a pretty hefty amount of money for him at this stage in his career, especially if he isn't playing outside cornerback. Prior to this trade getting done, I wasn't even sure Miami was going to find a team willing to pick up the entirety of Ramsey's pre-raise contract. Yes, the Steelers have the cap room, but they could take on the contract outright to have helped them in trade negotiation. I don't know if I see where it really did. Ramsey is under non-guaranteed team control for $21 to $24 million in cash in each of 2026, 2027, and 2028 per over the cap. Fitzpatrick, meanwhile, has 2 years left on his deal and will cost Miami $15.5 million in 2025 and $17.6 million in 2026. Those terms probably offer the Dolphins good value for Fitzpatrick, who made the Pro Bowl again last season. Smith seems to be an acquisition made with the offensive coordinator Arthur Smith in mind. The pair worked together in Tennessee and Atlanta. The addition likely means that Steelers will frequently play multiple tight ends at once, with Smith alongside Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. But I can't help but think the Steelers are dealing for Smith at his absolute peak. Smith is coming off a career year in which he recorded 88 receptions for 884 yards with the Dolphins, but that doesn't mean we ought to forget about the 7 years of relative mediocrity that came before it. Smith was underpaid on his old contract, yes, but Pittsburgh is giving him a one-year extension for $12 million, which could wipe out that value. Although I have a hard time getting on board with this move for the Steelers, it's logical for them to improve the team to maximize their upside. And there is upside, particularly because the defense has the potential to be great. But I don't know that this move really improved Pittsburgh in 2025 or beyond, and it came at a cost. The optimistic view is that Ramsey has been a star in the past and can be a star again. And you might well look back on this trade as being part of the realization of the upside for Pittsburgh defense. Let's flip over to the Miami side here, which is both straightforward and, from my perspective, a pretty clear win. The Dolphins had been looking for a taker on Ramsey. I assumed this would involve the Dolphins eating a portion of Ramsey's guaranteed salary, but they ended up finding a trade partner that just took about on the full freight. Losing Smith isn't ideal, but the Dolphins offense is intended to funnel through Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Don't forget Achane, who each took a step back last season. Achane didn't, though. If all goes as planned for Miami, far more targets should go to the two wideouts again in 2025. Same analysis on Smith holds here too. The Dolphins, who were in a far tighter cap situation, didn't want to overpay the tight end after a career year, and that makes sense. After losing Javon Holland in free agency, the Dolphins backfilled the safety position with two new acquisitions, Ashton Davis and Ifeatu Melifonwu, both on cheap deals. In Fitzpatrick, they now have an established high-end safety to replace Holland, get him essentially the same numbers the Giants paid Holland. On top of it all, Miami gets a late-round draft pick swap in its favor in this deal. Miami wasn't in an ideal position, having one veteran it needed to trade and another desiring a new contract the team didn't want to give. But by making this deal with the Steelers, the Dolphins got most of the hand they had. 110%, I agree with that. And I'll go even further. I had a Patreon and channel member only update after the trade happened because I started hearing some things in terms of the fallout. I can tell you this, all right? Ramsey wanted to go to the 49ers, the Chargers, or the Rams. The Rams were the only one of those three that were showing any legitimate interest. But from what I understand, the Rams wanted Ramsey plus draft picks to take on that contract. All right, put that in perspective. The Rams wanted Ramsey plus draft picks. They wanted to come out the clear winner. And yet instead, what do we come away with? Minkah Fitzpatrick and a pick swap where we give up a 7th but get a 5th. W. I don't know what else to say. That's a huge W. All right. Now, in terms of Pittsburgh acquiring Ramsey, from what I'm told and from what I heard from a very, very reliable source, Pittsburgh had to give that raise. If they were not going to give the raise to Jalen Ramsey, he wasn't coming there. It goes back to what I was telling you guys. Remember what I said? He wants to be paid like a corner, even if he's going to play safety a little bit. You know, that's why he was so reluctant to full on make the move to safety, because of the pay decrease. Now the Steelers have given him top tier corner money, right? He's making $26.6 million this year now. He'll say, where do you want me to play? I'll play linebacker if you need me to, let alone safety. So don't be surprised when you see Ramsey playing a little bit more of a safety role in Pittsburgh than he did here. It's because of the money. He's getting paid like a corner, so he'll play wherever, right? So, but again, I keep telling you guys, this is a W, and Seth Walder laid it out. It's a pretty clear win for the Miami Dolphins when you look at, we were cornered in this situation. One team that he wanted to go to and wanted to acquire him, they wanted us to basically pay them to take him. And who knows what they would have wanted us to take on in terms of a financial burden, as well as packaging him with draft picks. We would have got fleeced. Instead, I think this is a beautiful deal. I think this is a great deal. Now, corner needs a little help, and obviously the tight end room now needs a little help. But it is what it is. All right? And I would agree. This is an A move for us. We won this trade, no matter what anyone tries to tell you. The only people that you're going to hear saying we lost this trade are people who don't know ball, people who got career agendas, and Steelers fans who are butthurt that they lost Minkah Fitzpatrick. Let's be honest here, okay? Now, speaking of the depleted tight end room, things sure did get interesting today in the afternoon. All right. Now, here, let's start off here. All right. I want to take you back. Remember, I did a video in March, right? March 4th to be exact. You can go look at it. Should the Miami Dolphins trade for Michael Mayer? And one of the reasons and one of the catalysts for that was a tweet that was sent out the day before by one of the people who, well, let's say reporters that cover the Oakland Raiders. All right. And the guy, his name is Vincent Bonsignore. All right. He's a Vegas Nation reporter at the Review Journal, where he covers the Raiders. He's also the host of In the Huddle on Raider Nation Radio. He's an NFL insider for LA's AM 570 Sports. All right. Now, if you remember, and if you go back, look at what he said. He's up and down, this guy, but I'm just going to lay it out for you. So, this was March 3rd, 2025. I've been told multiple teams have been doing due diligence on Raiders Michael Mayer. Multiple sources indicate the Raiders are trying to trade Mayer, who is heading into his third season. Plenty of teams are interested. So this was in March, right? That is where we're going to there. That is from March, all right? And, you know, that's why the next day I did my video. Should the Miami Dolphins trade? And, you know, I did a couple. I did Kyle Pitts. I don't think Kyle Pitts is a scheme fit, especially if we want to go more 11 personnel. We need more of a traditional Y that you can disguise and flex out as an F, and you don't know what you're getting in terms of, you know, when he's out on the field, right? So I don't think he's a great fit. I really don't. And what's crazy is I want you to remember that tweet came out March 3rd. On February 4th, So a month before that, the Raiders hired Chip Kelly. All right? So Chip Kelly had already been in the building for a month when word was leaking out that they wanted to trade and were interested in, at the right cost, trading away Michael Mayer. Now, Pro Football Talk, they put out an article here, report Michael Mayer is one of the tight ends the Dolphins have interest in. The Dolphins traded their only 2024 Pro Bowler in tight end Jonnu Smith as part of a deal that also sent cornerback Jalen Ramsey to Pittsburgh. Now the Dolphins are in the market for tight end and cornerback help. A report earlier today indicated the Dolphins are talking to multiple teams about a trade for tight end. That's the Tom Pelissero report. One of those teams, according to a writer for the Miami Herald, is the Raiders, as Miami has had its eye on tight end Michael Mayer for, quote, a while. The Raiders drafted Brock Bowers in the first round in 2024, and he became one of the league's best tight ends in his rookie season. They also have a free agent addition in Ian Thomas. All right. So Dolphins interested in Michael Mayer. I mean, you didn't have to be a writer for the Miami Herald to know that, and that's why I did the whole video back in March about if they should trade for Michael Mayer. All right. Because it was evident from things I was hearing, we were one of the teams that were potentially interested in him. All right. So now, about 50 minutes after that article came out, good old Vincent Bonsigliere, he went back at it again. He said the Raiders have big plans for their tight ends, and Mayer is a big part of those plans. But if the Miami Dolphins make a legitimate offer, you'd have to at least consider it. All right, so that's at 3:53 p.m. Then, to about an hour and a half later, he tweets out, and he quote tweets that Pro Football Talk article we just read, and he said the Raiders have no interest in trading Michael Mayer. And if you go read, because then Pro Football Talk put out an article about that whole situation, right? And basically, they reference how in an interview for the Raiders YouTube channel, Mayer said he's fitting in with the offense in Vegas and with Chip Kelly and all this kind of stuff. And Mayer basically said in that video too, he believes he'll have a big role in Chip Kelly's offense. He even said that the Raiders may go, 12 personnel a lot, and there's even going to be sets where they have 3 tight ends out there and 13 personnel, right? So he said in the spring they've been doing a lot of 13 personnel. Listen, look at that, let's just go over the reporting there, all right? And I'm not discrediting Vincent Bonsigliere or whatever his name is. I'm not, discrediting him at all. But here's the fact. A month after Chip Kelly arrives, he tells us basically Mayer's on the trade block and there's tons of people and tons of teams around the NFL interested. Then the draft happens. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, when a tight end needy team, emerges in the Dolphins, right? He says, yeah, the Raiders have big plans for their tight ends and Mayer's a big part of that. But if the Dolphins make a legitimate offer, you'd have to at least consider it. Then, not even 2 hours later, it's, well, they have no interest in trading him. It's not like, I would be more inclined to believe this narrative if Chip Kelly arrived after Vincent's tweet in March, right? If Vincent Bonsigliere tweeted out that, what he tweeted out on March 3rd, that multiple teams are doing due diligence on him and multiple sources indicate the Raiders are trying to trade him right now, if he would have tweeted that out before Chip Kelly arrived, and then Chip Kelly arrives and now he's saying what he's saying, that they have no interest in trading him, then I would believe it a little bit more. But the fact of the matter is, let's be real here. If you can get something decent for him, they're probably going to turn him, because why wouldn't you? You got Brock Bowers, right? That's the fact of the matter. You've got Brock Bowers. I mean, this is just, it makes no sense to hold on to that if a team like the Dolphins are going to come around and offer something, legitimate at all. So they've also got Ian Thomas too, right? So, and I don't know. I just think if the right deal comes across, yeah, they're gonna move him. They're gonna move him for sure. And remember, they brought in Ian Thomas, like I just said, right? They signed him in March. Again, 22 days on March 25th. So 22 days after that Vincent Bonsignore tweet about how the Raiders are trying to trade Mayer. That's exactly what he said. And plenty of teams are interested. To me, this seems like they're trying to conjure up some interest. That's what it seems like to me. That's the vibe I'm getting. All right, they're not going to go back and say, oh, yeah, we're actively looking to trade him, because then we've got him by the shorts and curls. Now, what's interesting too here, sticking with this, is what it could cost to acquire a guy like Michael Mayer. All right? Because the fact of the matter is this. It probably is not going to cost as much as people think it would. Honestly, it probably is not going to cost as much as people think it would. And I've got something I want to show you guys right here. And this is probably going to lay out exactly what I'm talking about. And this video I'm going to show you here, this is from, again, someone who covers the Miami Dolphins. All right. Someone who covers the Raiders, someone who knows exactly what's going on very well over there, and that is Mitchell Rentz of the Raiders Report. And this is what he said in regards to landing Michael Mayer.
The number one thing that I thought of when this trade ended up going down, if Jonnu Smith getting dealt to Pittsburgh means that Michael Mayer could potentially be on the trade block. 3 minutes goes by, and then Tom Pelissero puts out a tweet, and he says that the Dolphins are now in conversations with multiple teams about acquiring a tight end. If you're talking to Mayer right now and you told him, hey, you have an opportunity to be the tight end one on an NFL football team, do you want to do it? Going to be real with you. I think he's going to jump at that. If the Dolphins ended up picking up the phone and they called the Raiders about a Michael Mayer trade, I actually don't think it's the craziest idea. So the deal that I decided to cook up here is this. The Dolphins have 2 fourth-round picks. I don't give a shit which fourth rounder you give me, but I want a fourth rounder. I don't want a fifth. I don't want a sixth. To me, that is selling low on Mayer, and that's not something that I am interested in.
So let me know in the chat, would you give up one of those 2 fourth-round picks for Michael Mayer? Personally, I would. I don't think you're going to get a better tight end in the 4th round than Michael Mayer. Now, I know people are going to look at his production and say, well, he only had, 27 receptions on 40 targets in his rookie season for 304 yards and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, he averaged 11.3 yards per catch. In 2024, he only played 11 games. He had 21 receptions for 32 yards, he only had 21 receptions on 32 targets for 156 yards. No touchdowns, and his average per reception dipped down to 7.4. But look at the quarterback situation they've had there, right? Like, you're talking about, he's had to deal with, like, Aiden O'Connell, like, the poor guy, all right? He's had to deal with, like, Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, or Desmond Ridder, all right? You get him some usage, and I think you're going to see, I think he could easily put up 500 plus yards, as well as being that reliable Y blocking guy we're looking for. And you're talking about one of the greatest tight ends in Notre Dame history. Now, another Notre Dame guy you could go chase right now, but I don't know if they'll trade him, is Cole Kmet, right? Because Cole Kmet, they drafted Colson Loveland. So is Cole Kmet going to become available? I don't know. But then you're talking about, like, legitimate money for Cole Kmet, right? And whereas you look at a guy like Michael Mayer, it's not expensive, right? You're talking about a $2.5 million cap hit this year and a $2.9 million cap hit next year, and they free up $1.596 million if they trade him this year, do the Raiders. Whereas you look at Cole Kmet's making about $11.6 million in terms of cap hit. Now, if they trade him this offseason, the Bears save $10 million. So maybe the Bears are interested in trading him. I don't know. But I don't think they want to take away from Caleb Williams right now. But let me know in the chat, would you trade a 4th-round pick for Michael Mayer? And guys, I just want to shout out, this video is sponsored by Clean the World. Clean the World works with over 8,300 hospitality partners to divert their soap bars and plastic amenities from landfills and recycle the collected soap into new bars. By doing so, Clean the World helps reduce pollution, save water, and decreases the carbon footprint of thousands of hotels globally while helping improve the lives of women, children, and communities. By recycling soap and other discarded hygiene products, Clean the World saves lives with items that traditionally end up in landfills, and they've distributed over 80 million bars of soap and an estimated 17 billion individual hand washes to those in need across the globe. You can donate or volunteer to help Clean the World's cause at cleantheworld.org. That's cleantheworld.org. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. Any breaking news comes, you know where to catch it, right here on Phinside the NFL. Until next time, fins up all day, every day.